to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a baller.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday, May 21st here, Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined.
Whoa. Calm down, Kyle.
Dude, Kyle's
What was that?
Kyle's jazzed up to talk some
I'm not
Dynasty
even going to
today.
introduce
Bro.
you two. How about that?
It's fine.
People know who I am.
They don't know who I am, but that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, no, we're doing all right. Whoa.
I had to start us off right and feel...
Waking the people up.
I always wonder, as the person that gets to introduce things, and you do this from time to time, Mike, it's like, do I want to go in with so much pep and pizzazz that the people that are listening to the show, they most likely know what we're about, but I want them to get from the very start, like, I'm excited, I mean business, and I hope they're in too. That's what I'm going for.
Hey, the Borg is here, and the Borg has got the dog. He's very high tea, and he is ready to talk some Dynasty fantasy football. Good Lord.
Our intros
man.
every week are just, these are top-notch intros. If you are here for information,
We are professionals.
you're in the wrong place, okay? We're just here to knock your socks off in the first 60 seconds and then disappoint the rest of the show.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been worried about me having the dog?
Yes.
I mean, like as in, I'm worried because I know you don't have it.
I would assume both of you think that I have it. I not just the pep
I
and
have
pizzazz.
I have played recreational sports with Kyle the Borgogan. The dog is there.
Oh, I should be worried.
He restrains it. He's leashed. So I guess we should all be worried about the day that Kyle hits true. You'll hit your midlife crisis, brother. It's on the way, and you're going to reevaluate everything. And at that point, we'll see if you take the leash off and what happens.
Kyle and I, Mike, are we're meeting up here in a couple weeks. Kyle's coming up to Pennsylvania.
I saw it on the calendar.
Yeah, it's official. It's in the work calendar. I told him to bring the pickle equipment. I don't play, so I'm excited to play some pickle with Kyle, and one of us will probably have a serious injury by the end of the weekend. It's going to be great. So I can't wait.
Fantastic.
We'll report back.
I try to get after it. I'm not gonna lie. I know I get labeled as a spreadsheet guy, but I get after it. Mike, we're
He
whoop
does.
pals.
I've seen that whoop score this morning. I'm like, Kyle, how do you average such a high daily strain? Where are these hours coming from?
Outside, brother. In Arizona, outside is not part of the equation, but I think that's part
true.
of it here.
That's true.
We are glad you're here with us. I'm Kyle Borganoni, joined by Matthew Betz, Mike Wright, and this week we're
That
going
was the longest intro ever. It's got to be.
Yeah, easily. This week, we're going to be talking some listener questions, who am I? And then there's some players that people are asking about consistently of what do I do with this player? And some of them, I'm just going to pass it off to you guys because I don't have these players in Dynasty, and I'm really glad I don't. Like, at the end of the day, I look at other people's rosters sometimes, and I go, yeah, I wouldn't want that player. When somebody asks like, oh, what's his value? I'm like, I don't even know because I don't have this player and I don't want a part of this player and I don't want to figure it out because a year from now it's going to be different. So when I look at our Dynasty Startup rankings, which are available in the app, in the Ultimate Draft Kit app, I was perusing them before the show. There's a couple of wide receivers that are in no man's land. And I mean, like, they're youngish, but they're at a point now where I don't even think you can get a first for them. And they're just kind of stuck in like, would I rather just hold on to this player or give him up for a second? And a second just feels so weak for a player that you've depended on. So
Like who? Give us an example.
So like I have one of the people that gets asked about a lot is Jaylen Waddle. I mean, just like nonstop. This is what I thought I had
Let's
a year
talk about
ago.
him later. Let's at least warm up.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I mean, like Jaylen Waddle, George Pickens is one that gets asked a lot. Brandon Ayuk, I think, is the most asked about player that, you can give some injury insights bets, but like, I don't want anything to do with that player. So it's just this ambiguous, wide receiver 3 range that you're just not excited in Dynasty. And this is a different format than saying in redraft, I can avoid this player, right? Like this is like, you're stuck with these dudes. So you can get all the rankings, all of those, ultimatedraftkit.com. But let's play a little game here. Let's start off. And if you're a listener, you can join in too. So, Betz, Mike, prove to me which of you is smarter. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to give some clues. And when you think
There's no drop?
there's no drop, this is just the who am I.
Ooh, wow.
Do you even care?
Okay,
Kyle?
wow.
Do you even care?
Wow.
I want to play a game.
We're recording at a different time today, and Kyle just does not have I take back my statement. You do not have the dog.
I won't lie, I looked for a drop before the show if we had a who am I drop. We do not.
I mean, I just
it's just a game.
assumed
All right, play the
it would
game.
be Kyle, do you even care? I mean, come on. All right, let's go.
All right, I'm going to give some clues, and if you are listening, you can join in with us. But if you have an answer, boys, tell me you can lock it in. First clue is this player is younger than Tyler Shuck.
Who isn't?
Who is 25.6 years old. And here's another part of that clue. This player has already finished at the top 12 of their position in their career. Okay? So younger than Tyler Shuck.
At least once.
And at least once been top 12 at their position. So I would say in dynasty circles, this seems like a good player, right? They're younger than 25. They've already
Could
been
be
top 12. All right.
I don't know. Maybe they've been in the league for a while and they're 24 and they've only been top 12 once. I don't know.
That would fit a lot of players. Clue number 2. Over the last 2 seasons, I have more completions than Lamar Jackson and more passing yards than Joe Burrow.
Okay, I mean, I have my guess. I have my first guess. Betz, do you have a? Don't share. Just do you have a?
I
first
do not
guess
yet. Still thinking.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, more completions and more. Okay.
Okay. So hopefully it's trending in the right direction. Clue number 3. I play for one of the 5 NFL teams that failed to have a single pass catcher reach 100 targets last year.
Okay, I think I have a guess.
Okay. Do you want to lock it in and you'll sound smarter than Mike?
I don't think I want to lock it in. but I'm leaning in a direction. I'll take one more clue.
Oh man, I feel like if the answer is who I am thinking of, then that one is a red herring trying to throw me off.
All right, clue number 4. The footballers are split on my dynasty startup ranking. So Andy has them at 8, Jason at 15, Mike at 11. And obviously this is a quarterback, but that's pretty wide range for a player. So does that clear up anything for you?
I mean, I'll lock in my answer. I feel good, not great about it.
Okay. Mike?
I'm not going to lock in. I'm just going to take it. We'll just ride this out. Lowest points possible.
Yeah. Clue number 5, my team drafted 2 wide receivers on day 2 of the NFL draft this year.
I'm not right.
Okay.
I'm not right.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't lock it in.
All right, Mike, tell us who it is.
At clue 1, with number 1 and number 2, I was like, is this a weird Lawrence? But then it was like, no, Lawrence missed a whole bunch of time with his shoulder, so it can't be. But the answer is C.J. Stroud.
It is Coleridge Bernard Stroud IV. Guys, I was offered a trade this past weekend for C.J. Stroud in a league, and
trade him away or trade for
to
him?
acquire him. To acquire
okay.
him. And that trade, went a different way, but I was offered him and the deal was in front of me and I got to sit with it for a while. And I wanted us to just get our thoughts because this past year was a huge stomach punch to people who thought this is the next generational quarterback. You thought you were getting Joe Burrow and getting this outlier player. Year 2 is different. We obviously don't want to overcorrect, but we have to kind of understand, like, Mike, you have him at 11, which is where he is in consensus places, but Andy and Jason are on completely opposite ends of the spectrum, where Jason has him at QB 15 in startups. Andy, still in a good spot, QB 8, but I feel like he's a player that no one knows what to do with. And so I held off on the deal, and I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on CJ Stroud. So Betz, you go first.
I mean, I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of what we saw as a rookie and this past year. Like, this past year, the offensive line was a train wreck. And going into the season, it was like, okay, we've got Diggs, Nico obviously is a stud, and we got Tank Dell entering year 2. Things should go well. Tank Dell obviously a slow start to the season off of his injury and then another catastrophic injury late. Diggs tears his ACL and Nico misses a handful of weeks too. So what you thought you were getting from a situation standpoint, and this is always tricky in Dynasty too, right? It's like you think the situation is set and then chaos ensues in the NFL season. What you thought you had as far as the situation was just completely out the window for his second season in the pros. And, Bobby Slowick is a guy that I think entering this past year was a hot name in the head coaching cycle of like, whenever he's ready, like he's probably going to get a job. And then he was just like, had one of the worst schemes in the NFL. So I'm willing to at least kind of like say that last year is not the norm for CJ Stroud. I mean, the offensive line play was terrible. He was under pressure all the time. And by the end of the season, like he was throwing to Xavier Hutchinson and Robert Woods, and Deontay Johnson was on this team for a week, right? Like it was just the weapons were not there the way we thought they would be. Now you have a situation where they clearly invest in a new scheme. Both rookies out of Iowa State in the second round, obviously still Nico there. So I'm willing to say that last year is not the normal. I'm not sure that year 1 was the normal either, but I think somewhere in this like quarterback 10 to 12 range is kind of where I'd have him, kind of where Mike's got him. But obviously I think the confidence in him as a player and as far as what you thought you were getting in fantasy after last year is definitely down.
I think the move from his rookie season, like there was too much of an overcorrection, I guess, or just like too much hope, too much hopium going around here about a guy who was like, he was solid. And like, we all got enamored by the real life CJ Stroud, and never forget that our game is not the real NFL. We can get stuck in these arguments of, I want fantasy football as close to real life football as possible, but it's not. It is a game about a game, and there are frequently players who are excellent NFL players, and watching them, especially in big moments, like we got to see CJ Stroud his rookie year, it changes how you think about that player because you become invested. You like that player. You think he's a great, and he's an up-and-coming great. That doesn't mean he's an up-and-coming great for fantasy football. Like, watch, like Jared Goff, I guess he has been better the last couple of years, but it's like when he's on the Lions, this looks like a great quarterback more often than not. But more often than not, Jared Goff, like he's such a high variance player that he can give you games where he just destroys you. But then you watch him on the field that day, like, oh no, that was a good quarterback. So I think that's the issue here with Stroud, where his rookie year, it's one mega monster game, but 2 really big boy fantasy games that were, the bulk of his points. So 70, 71 to 72 points of his 275 points his rookie season was from 2 games because he absolutely went nuclear in those games. Yes, and we took that, and some people unfortunately extrapolated it too hard. So I think that that's who he is. I think that his rookie season is that, like, I guess the fantasy question turns into, do you think there is still a Joe Burrow ceiling in CJ Stroud's range of outcomes? And that's the part, like, I don't know. You're starting over right now. Well, not starting over completely because you still have Nico, who's certified stud, but the rest, you're starting up over with the rest of them. You hope that one of the Iowa State boys hits. You want them both to hit, but it's like you need one of those guys to hit, or you're going to be stuck in CJ Stroud is just QB 12 to 15. Like if one of those wide receivers can hit, now we're jumping up. But I just, having watched him, both of these years, he's not Burrow, and that's okay. But it was just he got crowned way too early, and I think that the rookie season is closer to what we would get from him. You'll get huge games because he's a pocket passer, and then you'll have stretches where you just keep playing him, chasing you're chasing that dragon, but you're never going to catch it.
The franchise is not worried at all. Like the Texans organization is not looking at the 2 years and going like, oh no, this player's not as good. Like he was really, really good, but they made the playoffs in both years, and their defense is good enough that this team can continue to win the AFC South and hopefully make some noise in the AFC. Like, they're not worried. D'Amico Ryans isn't sitting there worried of like, oh no, this player isn't as good as we thought, and yet we have to adjust our expectations. I thought of Dak because Dak could have some outlier seasons, but he definitely ran a little bit more early in his career. But he'd have these outlier seasons where he could jump up there, and he always felt like he could be a safe quarterback one. And I wonder if that's what we're going to get with Stroud. It's like, okay, you could have a top 5 season. If it hits right in the touchdown department, he runs in 3 to 4 touchdowns as opposed to like 1 or 2, and things change a little bit. But I think the pendulum swung a little too much, where now people don't want him on. Best ball, I think he's buried even further, Betz. Like, he's like past QB 15.
Oh yeah, he's that range. Like, that's a nice target, I think, for CJ Stroud, where you can see the upside case. But like you said last year, where he was going in all formats of fantasy, redraft, best ball, dynasty, like he had to hit for where he was going. There was like no room for failure at his current costs in all formats. There's room for him to not have to be Superman and be incredible. So I think now's a good time, if you were in on Stroud, to go see what his trade market is in dynasty formats, because it does kind of feel like, the shine has definitely worn off.
Kyle, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, so this could just be more of a rhetorical thing, but like his rookie year, 5 picks, and then that jumps up to 12 this past year. I don't remember completely the rookie season was he just that good, of making the right throws and making the right decisions, or did you remember that season of like there was I think it was Nick Foles had this year where
27-2
where they cut up like the amount of interceptions that were dropped that he should have thrown, and it was like 10 plus, and you're like, so what, did we get a situation like that his rookie season where, and then he made the jump from 5 to 12, or was it just a disconnect because the wide receivers weren't as good as they needed to be?
Betz touched on how outlier he was in terms of like yards per attempt was the highest for a rookie.
It threw the 8.2, 23 to 5 touchdowns to interceptions. Like, that is, for a rookie, that's wild.
I have some numbers in front of me that it kind of just share. Like, this past year, he only threw to his first read 60% of the time. That was the 3rd lowest rate among quarterbacks. So it was very different when you have a hodgepodge of guys out there, like Betz mentioned. Like, towards the end of the year, it was like, who is getting open on this team? Where the year before was 67%. So if you're not throwing your first read, you're having to work through your progressions. His pressure rate went up. He saw the most pressures in the NFL. And so all of those factors together is going to lead to just less opportunities to hit people on design plays, right? This is the plays that Bobby Slowick drew up, and they were worst in the league on second down from week 10 on. So the down where you're trying to determine, either things need to be manageable or you have these chunk gains, they're not getting it. They were the worst in terms of success rate. So it's just a lot of things go together, and I bet you have some stuff too, Betz.
Yeah, I was just going to say his rookie season in 2023, that touchdown to interception ratio was the second best all time in a single season, behind only Lamar Jackson this past year, which, it's Lamar Jackson, like one of the best quarterbacks over the last decade. So yeah, anytime that you see this type of outlier stuff, you should just expect regression. It's just hard to repeat like levels of greatness that you see in the NFL where there's a lot of parity. So, yeah, I mean, again, like I've said before, I think the truth on him as a player is just somewhere in the middle of what we've seen these last 2 years.
Like, I wouldn't consider him a buy low. I think he's just priced appropriately right now. Like, we have him at QB 11.
Yeah, that could be fair. I would say a little bit low.
Okay. Would you rather have
I think that's fair.
CJ Stroud or Drake May in Dynasty?
Wow.
I know what Betz is going to say.
Yeah, he'll say Drake May.
That's an easy one.
Man.
Give me the guy that runs.
Yeah, I know, I get that. I mean, I guess, I guess I'll see if Drake May's a boat.
He could be.
If he's
he could be better than CJ
I want
Stroud.
a yacht, man. I want a yacht for my players. Would you have CJ Stroud or Kyler Murray?
Still Kyler.
I think Kyler.
Guys, I have Kyler in a Superflex, and every time I look at him, I was like, do I love him or hate him? I can't figure it out.
It's both. It both exist at the exact same time.
Like, sometimes I look at my roster and I go, I have Drake May and Kyler on that team and, and Anthony Richardson. But like, I look at that team like, is this a strength for the team, or am I screwed? I can't figure it out. One more name: CJ Stroud or Jordan Love.
That's Jordan Love for me. Pretty easy.
Ask me tomorrow. Like literally a coin
I think it's
flip.
close.
I could go back and forth on those two. I don't know.
Okay.
Close.
I think I would say Love, but it is very, very close. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, before we hop in the mailbag, I wanted to get y'all's unfiltered thoughts about this picture. We'll put this out on socials if you haven't seen it yet, but every single year, the NFLPA puts together this little rah-rah, we're all rookies in our jersey picture moment called the Rookie Premiere. And it's just a bunch of dudes in their new uniforms standing. Half of them are smiling. Some of them, like Judkins, is not even looking at the camera. His eyes are down. But this is not.
You know how hard it is to take a group picture, Kyle?
Apparently, Judkins didn't get the memo.
Getting a group picture with just your family, where everyone's eyes are actually open and looking at the camera, it's brutal.
Well, some of these are staring right into my soul when I look at this picture. So I wanted to get your reactions. This has nothing to do with dynasty value, but maybe it does. Maybe that this is everything right here. So is there anything in this picture, like I mentioned, we'll put it on socials, that just confirms all of your priors and tells you everything you need to know? So Betz, any first takes on players here?
I mean, this is not helpful for an audio version / without being able to see the picture live. So look it up. But is the Rams player with the orange hair, is that Terrence Ferguson?
Yes.
That is the orangest hair I've ever seen.
Oh, man.
Goodness.
Wait, where?
In the top left.
They
put all the tight ends together.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
they put all the tight ends together. Mason Taylor, Loveland, Warren, they're all together, just like, oh, tight ends, go stand over there.
Except for Elijah Arroyo, who's not over there.
That's true. He's kind of the outcast of the group. There's no Falcons in this picture, by the way. Apparently they didn't get the memo. Raheem Morris wasn't in the coach's picture either. So maybe we got something else. Maybe we were like trying to alienate ourselves from the rest of the league. Doesn't work out well.
You're trying to be the bad boys.
The Dirty Birds.
Oh, those Falcons, they don't even show up to stuff. Scattaboo has a bold move with a hat.
He's right in the front. Yeah. He's not taking your crap. He'll wear a hat.
Also, there is a big difference between Dylan Gabriel and basically everybody else in the picture. He looks like a baby boy. He looks really, really small. And then Tyler Shuck right in the middle.
What? Who placed him right in the middle? Like, don't you know tall people are in the back? And he's just standing over everyone like a giant.
Guys, RJ Harvey looks like he has the dog. I've been saying over and over again that I like to doubt old running backs. But this picture alone makes me like move him up in my not real rankings, but real rankings.
The first rookie with old man strength.
Did you see Sean Payton's Twitter page recently? It was
something about his daughter, right?
Yes, his daughter took a picture with RJ Harvey, and he said, when your daughter loves your second round pick or something like that. And then he retweeted it within an hour. So he's still trying to figure out social media. But, I mean, any narrative you want to spin on RJ Harvey with Sean Payton.
Are you saying he needed to delay that?
Yeah, you got to get the impressions up over the course of time. Come on, Sean. If he wants to get paid, monetization. I just thought that was so good. It's like, what coach does that? Nobody, right? So if you want another positive in RJ Harvey's camp, there you go.
All right, two more quick thoughts for me is that Matthew Golden looks like a little baby in the far right. Just looks like he is the JV player compared to everybody else. And then right in the middle is our boy Jack Besh, who is staring into my soul, just looks like he's an absolute baller. Guys, I feel like it's going to happen. I'm already hearing great things.
So too.
I'm only wanting to hear great things too, by the way. I'm ignoring anything.
I'm dismissing all the bad.
Okay, good. This picture confirms everything.
Mailbag.
If you want to get your answer or your questions answered best, our Discord channels are the place to be. Our Dynasty Superflex. I actually took a couple of different questions straight from those channels. And what I noticed is that people are getting full roster reviews in there. We can't really do that on the show. But if you want your Dynasty roster review, if you want people to say, hey, what should I do? That is one of the best plays if you want to go there, ballersdiscord.com. One of these questions was from Desolation. He asked, would you rather have Garrett Wilson or 2 first-round picks, one in 2026 and one in 2027? So Wilson or 2 first-round picks?
So it's 2 futures, one very far future, so 2 years away. I would say that's pretty easily Garrett Wilson for me. If you change it to be 2 26 firsts, I'm a little bit more open to it. But he to me, he still feels like a player that we talk about when players are old and they're veterans, how their value to your active roster is greater than their value in the market. And Garrett Wilson's a player to me where his value in the market doesn't match what he can do for your team, and he's young. So I think that it's tough in the streets for the Garrett Wilson truthers right now, but watching him, I still believe that he is a top-tier wide receiver, and things around him have not broke the correct way. And we have seen that for so many wide receivers that we kept supporting. And you're like, it should happen. It should happen. That's not a guarantee it will, but you got to bet on talent. And I wouldn't punt that talent for this offering of picks.
Yeah, I think, if you knew that they were both going to be early and both in 2026, which is not the scenario, I'd probably take the first round picks. But at this point, like you said, 2 years out for one of the picks. Next year, you get a first. Like next year's first, if you got Garrett Wilson with that pick, you'd probably be pretty excited. This is a guy that's finished as the wide receiver. Exactly. 19, 32, not a great, obviously, finish, but it was a touchdown, situation. And then last year, the wide receiver 9. And it's like, man, it feels bad because we always keep feeling like we want this top 3, top 5 type of season from Garrett Wilson. And top 15 wide receivers are hard to find in Dynasty, and you've got one in Garrett Wilson. So unless it was like too early first in 2026, I'm going to keep Garrett Wilson.
I think part of why last year felt so bad because where we are now, our memories are, you're like, what? He was wide receiver 9? I thought it was not a good year. Guys, it was happening. There was a stretch of games in the middle of the year right before Devontae Adams showed up that it was, holy crap, it's happening right now. The Garrett Wilson breakout is going. Then they threw another variable in. They brought another fantastic wide receiver who's best friends with the quarterback, and weird. Target share eventually switched over to Devontae Adams. So it doesn't feel like he was the wide receiver 9, but go back in the game log. Look at that stretch where he was great for fantasy. So I still side on that it should happen. And look, Fields isn't necessarily the greatest starting quarterback option that he could have, but Justin Fields is the one who made it happen for DJ Moore, a player who you kept saying over and over, it should be happening for this player. So I have faith. And yeah, Betz, you just shared weeks 5 through 9. You can't really pace that out, but just to show how dominant that was, weeks 5 through 9, he was pacing for 1,600 yards. Like, it was really happening.
If you look at his 3 seasons, you mentioned the finishes, 19, 32, and 9. They're actually really close. Apart from like the touchdowns last year, it's like the targets, the receptions, the yards, they're all pretty similar. And when you look at wide receiver 32 finish, you're like, oh man, that's a really bad year. Because what we expected him to do was to take a year 2 leap. It was Zach Wilson at quarterback. And then you compare that to his season before. It's like he was only off by 60 yards and a touchdown. That's it. That's it. It was a huge difference. So a lot of these players are clumped together when we say he finishes the top 24 wide receiver. It's not a huge difference from wide receiver 25, 26, 27. So at the end of the day, trades like this, sometimes in Dynasty, people like to make trades just, what's the value of a player? You're hoping you get Garrett Wilson in one of those firsts. At the end, and I bet you wouldn't. So I'd rather just hold on to the player. If you're rebuilding or not, I feel like Garrett Wilson's just a good player. You don't have to, he's not team dependent.
Yeah, it's like the odds of your pick turning into Garrett Wilson they're already low. They're already low. And we want every one of our picks, we want it to turn into Jamar and Brian Thomas Jr. That's what we all want from our picks. But it is not possible. There aren't enough elite players. And so there's a tier of players who are very good, and don't get rid of the very good players. So you have a 0.5% odds of hitting on a superstar.
This next question is from Nathan. It's a question about contract year players. Is there any evidence of players performing better in their contract year? I feel like it's always mentioned as a positive to be in contract year because of the extra motivation. So do you guys take this into account more than just this is a fun anecdote as kind of like a throw on when you're mentioning players? Betz?
I mean, I don't have any hard and fast data on this, but when I'm thinking about like contract year guys, oftentimes the best players in the league are getting contract extensions before they're in a contract year. Like that's kind of, if you're a first round wide receiver and you produce in the first couple of years, like you're going to get a contract extension. Same thing's true with these elite quarterbacks, and even the non-elite quarterbacks are getting huge contracts just because of the way things are going. So if you're one of the best players in the league, you're already getting contract extensions without question. The guys that are in contract years are often the guys that are like, we'll see how this goes this year, or they're guys that sign, a 1 year like veteran type deal, and then they're in the contract year again. And I feel like it's kind of a skewed stat to say that sometimes these guys will perform better in the contract year, just because, like I said, it's a small sample of the players that are actually ongoing in contract years. The best players get re-signed, and therefore you would expect that to be the case. So yeah, I don't have a strong take here, but I think it's overvalued relative to the actual numbers.
It matters when I like a player. If I don't like a player, he's a loser who didn't get a contract extension.
Ken Walker, contract year.
Yeah, exactly. This dude is playing for cash right now.
But Jaylen Warren, he already got paid. So yes, technically it's a contract year, but
yeah, he's right back in.
Yeah, he's totally fine. Yeah, it really does fit your narrative. I have done some studies, and here's what it's come down to. It's kind of a nothing burger because Betz mentioned it. The dudes who get there, it's super random. If you're a quarterback especially, right? Like Sam Darnold was in a contract year, and so you could use that to fit your narrative, but it's kind of only focusing on one factor. We all do this with stats, right? We want them to fit our narratives, but was the contract year part what actually propelled Sam Darnold, or was it the fact that it was the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell's a good coach and it's a good system? Like we can use
a rookie tore his meniscus.
Right. We can use so many different things. Like in stats, it's like it's reductionism. I'm reducing everything with this player to this one stat. And it's like, yeah, well, yes, it fits the narrative. I do think there are some interesting players. I dug them up for this next year who's in a contract year. So if you guys want to talk about any of these, the quarterbacks are Darnold, essentially. It's a 1 year thing. Daniel Jones, he's got some motivation. Russell Wilson, and then the Browns guys. But the running backs are interesting. We do have a lot of names that are in a contract year. Kyron, Brees, James Cook, Ken Bone, Rashad White, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, and some older dudes. And then the wide receivers, George Pickens is probably the name that he's going to get a bag somewhere. I think motivation's always been the conversation. Has he been motivated since he's been in the league? I don't know. Sometimes. McLaurin, Mike Evans, Debo, some older guys, and then some interesting names. I for Dynasty, I forgot, and I didn't realize that Rashid Shaheed's in a contract year. I've kind of always just put it with the Saints. That's going to be different. Juwan Jennings is in a contract year. Romeo Doubs. So those are some second-tier players that I think, to me, I'd give them a little boost in my mind for a contract. But any other names in this list you guys want to bring up for contract year narratives?
I think Romeo Doubs is an interesting player. Because look, Romeo Doubs is not he's not a top tier guy. Like this isn't he leaves, he goes somewhere, he gets money, and we got a ceiling play here. But it's like how good is Romeo Doubs? Like with the Packers wide receivers, just the way that they utilize them, I don't know that we have an actual definite answer to which ones of them are actually really good players. Like if Jaden Reed is that good, why is he just a slot player? If Dontavian Wicks gets open all the time, but they don't want to play him then because he can't catch. And Romeo Doubs is like the glue. Like he's this like really good wide receiver too. So I'm interested to see what happens with him because I don't know if he feels like a player that's going to get to market because the Packers don't use him a way that they should bring him a giant bag of money. So he's a name that I will have my eyes on of, heading into the next year's off season.
Yeah, I think the other thing too with some of these contract guys, like you kind of look at these players, whichever, kind of subset you talk about, and then you can also look at like what the team is doing in preparation for this player leaving. Like Romeo Doubs, right? Like they draft Matthew Golden in the first round for the first time in forever. We'll see on, Christian Watson, presumably not going to be back with this team either. He's in a contract year as well. So like, I kind of feel like they're telling us they're probably not bringing Doubs back unless he hits the market and he's like, I haven't gotten anything. I'll sign for cheap. But you can kind of, you can kind of see like teams are preparing for life after these players with their moves. Same thing with Jacoby Myers. I think he's like an awesome guy to have if you're a contender right now, but he's going to be 29 next year, doesn't have a contract, and they just drafted the next Hall of Famer in Jack Besh, right? So
there you go.
They're planning for life after these guys. So that's another thing that I look at too with some of the fringe guys in contract years is like, is the team kind of already forecasting that they're going to be gone or not? And I think for those couple examples, they definitely are.
All right, let me then connect a dot for you guys because tight end, there's the older dudes, Kelsey, Andrews, and Njoku, which is interesting. They brought in a backup plan with Harold Fannin. And then I was looking at the life cycle of a tight end. We have some articles in the Dynasty Pass about like, okay, when do tight ends break out? What does that look like over the course of their career? The largest breakout age is age 25. And there's a tight end entering a contract year who's only 24.6 years old.
Oh, no. Is this Kyle Pitts?
I just wanted to throw it out there. Because
wow,
we're on the cycle, guys. We're on the annual cycle of, it's time to sign back up again. What could happen? This could be the year. People are talking.
I am shocked
that
Njoku's already up for a contract.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he just signed
a couple years ago. Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, Pitts is wild, man. Like it's clearly not happening in Atlanta. Like it's just not. Could he be a second contract guy in a new situation? Like him and the Falcons both need to just move on.
He could be Evan Ingram.
That's clear as day. Yeah, I think that's
Evan
possible.
Ingram actually broke out though as a Giant.
Yeah, but then Evan Ingram has had the fortune of being able to work in schemes with, like Doug Peterson will scheme tight ends, right? Now he goes with Sean Payton, and we have all this Joker talk and all that nonsense, but like Sean Payton will scheme him looks. Like if Kyle Pitts actually had a coach that could scheme him looks close to the line of scrimmage and just let him be an athlete with the ball in his hands, I think he could be fine. So did I just talk myself into trading for him on the cheap? Oh, maybe I need some help.
I think you forgot watching Kyle Pitts run around these past
Well, they're just asking him to be a high ADOT guy, and he's not a wide receiver. So stop trying to make him act like a wide receiver.
He's not a tight end either, though.
No,
man.
I know. Oh, man. We'll always have that rookie year.
We had Pitts and Tucker Kraft on our Dynasty team. We were working a trade with Andy, who Andy is moving towards rebuilding now. And we went back and forth and said, which tight end do we want to include in this deal? Because we got Kelsey on this team. We traded for Kelsey. And we're like, okay, we're going for it right now. We're going for a run. Which one of these young tight ends do we not want? And we went back and forth. Myself, a Falcons fan. Jeremy, a Packers fan. The Tucker Kraft won out, which I think was the right decision. I had to take my heart out of I want Kyle Pitts to work. But so Andy is now once again somehow back on the Kyle Pitts train. I
love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts too. All right, next question. Simple from Jack. What is the best way to politely leave a dynasty league?
Man, that's tough. It's legit a full-on breakup. Is what it feels like when if you've been in a dynasty league or just any fantasy football league, for years. Leaving that is tough. Dynasty is even harder though, because it's like, okay, well, for these people who I'm gonna presume that you still want these people to have a good league and enjoy, that means that someone has to come in and take over your roster. Like they can't just cut this team and then move on. Someone has to come in, and so you can't destroy it. Man, the best way, if your heart is not in it though, you got to get out. You got to stop making trades and let the commish know.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I've been in leagues like this has happened, and I've taken on a orphan team before, done that in Diner Junior. Like, for somebody to come in and take your team, you got to at least have like some pieces there. Like, don't leave the league when you literally are like bottomed out and terrible. Like, if you know that your heart isn't in it, maybe give it 1 more year, 2 more years. Like, at least give the team a fighting chance before you're like, hey guys, I'm out. Because then it will help your league mates actually find somebody who will want to take the team on. That's how I would do it. And that's probably the most polite way, instead of just being like, my team's terrible, peace out.
You don't want to dump and run.
No.
Like, you don't want to take a dump and then just leave it at your friend's house, because these are people that you know, hopefully. Now,
You got flush.
some people are in leagues where, they met online or they got this group, and it's like, I don't really know these people. I'm not as connected. A couple years later, I think most people think that dynasty leagues are supposed to be forever. The concept should be you play forever, but specifically if you're in 4 or 5 leagues, I get it. If you don't want to be in all of the same time. I had to get out of a league a couple years ago, and I made sure to give notice to at least a year in advance. I know that sounds really bad, but I wanted to make sure they were set up in the right way and that this team, had draft picks. I wasn't just trading everybody away and this person wasn't left with anything. So it's not fun, but I'd rather just be honest. And I have a policy that I cannot join a new league, unless I leave another league. And it really keeps me...
You're maxed out.
Yeah, I don't want to just be in another league to be in another league. Some people want 30 dynasty leagues.
Yeah.
So that at the end of the year, it's great for you, but you can say that you won, because hopefully you won one of those 30 leagues, but that's just not how I play. But yeah, just give somebody advance notice, and if it's okay if a league goes from 12 to 10. Like, that's totally fine. I'd rather have 10 people that want to be in the league than 12, and it's like, we always have 1 or 2 that keep switching out. So I'm in a 10-man league, one of mine for Dynasty, and it's super competitive. Everybody's in, everyone's excited, and we're not trying to stretch it to 12. So just tell them, right? We're adults. You'll be fine.
Just don't trash the team.
Yeah, don't take it dump. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I almost said dump.
Impeccable speed, Kyle.
No, I was going to do it live on air. Just
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, Kyle.
no.
That was a little too far, buddy.
too much?
Too much.
Too much right now?
Yeah.
All right.
It's too late now.
This is one of those
What's that
value
smell?
questions. Yeah. People love it. This comes from on IG, jacuzzi_bubble bath. What a great handle, by the way.
Okay. It's a little redundant, right?
Yeah. They're asking about Keon Coleman. The question is, where are we at with Keon Coleman? That's it. Just like, what do we do with him? He's 22 years old, entering year 2. They took him 33rd overall. So that like T. Higgins spot at the top of the second round. He only had 57 targets last year. That sounds like sad, incredibly sad to only have 57 targets, but he averaged 19.2 yards per reception and was only in on 55% of the snaps. What do you guys remember about Keon Coleman this past year? Because going into the year, we had some concerns. Like, those were like Matthew Golden level concerns of, he wasn't targeted a ton. So, Mike, what do you remember about Coleman this past year?
I mean, my memory of Coleman was starting at the prospect level. Like, I wasn't very in. My chips, the Buffalo Bills walked up to my table and they took my chips, and they were the ones that pushed them because I was not going to go in on Coleman. But when Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills go in on Keon Coleman, you have to adjust and be willing to say, well, I guess my scouting on him, my spreadsheet gathering on him, there's maybe something I missed, and this will work out. It feels like the analyzation of Keon Coleman was correct. He was out a little bit over his skis, and I don't think he's bad. It's just I feel like if I have Keon Coleman right now, I'm already adjusting what I think about him. I'm not holding on to that year 2 player, and you're like, I cannot wait to see this guy in year 2 because he is having an absolute certified breakout. It's going to be like, it's going to feel almost like a Rashad Bateman path of like, I think that there's a good player in there. He just, will he ever get used
That's
properly with everything that's going over there with the Buffalo Bills? So, and like, I have Bateman on a dynasty squad. I'm not dropping Bateman. If someone wanted to come and give me actual value, I would trade him. I'm talking about Rashad Bateman, and that's probably how I would handle Keon Coleman as well. I'm not holding on to him with just, a vice grip.
Yeah, and I think thinking back to like the analytical side of Keon Coleman as a rookie before he started in the NFL, a lot of the conversation was like he doesn't really separate. A lot of his production came from touchdowns in college. Like how talented, how good is he actually? He's got the basketball background, like kind of fits. And then you saw the Bills, or maybe not struggle to use him, but like he kind of struggled to carve out a role. And I think the team knew that because they traded for Amari Cooper in season. They were still rotating guys. Matt Collins was getting snaps. Like, they didn't use him like you would think. This guy's an alpha, put him on the field and kind of let him go to work. So there's still a learning curve, I think, for Keon Coleman at the NFL level that I agree with Mike. Like, I think there's some talented attributes that Keon Coleman has, but I definitely think like right now is kind of the call your shot time for him in Dynasty, where if he does this again this year, the perception, the value on him is going to fall off, I think, pretty quickly. But I also see a world where he takes a step forward and he's good. The way that he was used last year was really interesting. I'm looking at his PFF page. He was targeted on 20 or more air yards over 30% of the time last year. So just naturally, like, that's going to come with a ton of variance. Like, he's not getting the easy looks, slants, stuff like that, where you can bank on it week in and week out. So I think we're probably in for more rotation, frustration type stuff with Coleman and the Bills wide receivers. That's where I am, and I wasn't super high on him as a prospect. So for me, like, if my league is still, intrigued by the what if he is Josh Allen's wide receiver one, I would be willing to see what that can get me in a trade, but that's my own personal take on Coleman.
He's almost, it sounds bad, he's almost on the wrong team. Like, obviously we want anybody attached to Josh Allen, but I think where he would excel best as like this power slot, Rashee Rice kind of guy that just in the open field, he can do stuff and he's fast enough to be able to do stuff. But you mentioned the routes. Right now it's Shakir, it's Dalton Kincaid that are taking most of those routes that are more layup type stuff that we want for fantasy. He was targeted on 19% of his routes, which is 58th percentile for day two wide receivers. His yards per out run was fine, 1.87. That's 83rd percentile over the last decade. But the problem is he just wasn't on the field enough. And his catch rate was under 52%, which is really, really, really bad. I just wonder if you're ever going to know what he is beyond a couple of like outlier touchdown games. So you mentioned the variance. Is he going to have games where he catches 2 touchdowns? Sure. Or like goes like 3 for 100 and goes like full MVS? Sure. I just don't know when you'll be able to count on that in an offense where it's just a lot of dudes and they bring in Josh Palmer too. So
looking at their whole depth chart, man, of the, like, I know when you say, what's the identity of the Bills? Oh, it's Josh Allen. But like, what is it? You know what I mean? Because like they just gave Shakir the money. He just secured the bag. He's going to be back. He's their best wide receiver, but he's a slot player. And like they spend the first on Dalton Kincaid, and does Dalton Kincaid have a Kyle Pitts problem? Like, is he not a tight end and he's not a wide receiver and he needs to operate? He needs to operate in where Khalil Shakir needs to operate. But Shakir just got the money, and he already has the trust. Man, thinking about the Bills for this upcoming season there's a lot to find out.
They're the Ravens. For years, we made the Rashad Bateman. It's like this team's identity is in defense, their quarterback being able to run the ball, and then you'll have these games where Rashad Bateman goes for touchdown, or Hollywood Brown used to. They have these multiple tight end looks that they use and multiple backs that they bring in on third down. It's like the sum of everything is like, I love this team. They're going to get double-digit wins. They're going to compete in the AFC, but just like the Ravens, they can't really come through in the playoffs either. It's a weird team for fantasy because, Curtis Samuel, they signed the year before. Josh Palmer got some money. These are usually 1 or 2 year deals. They're not huge, but I mean, Matt Collins was like a really important player to this team.
Yes, he was. Like not a huge stat line, but just really impactful when they actually used him. I wanted to see, so I pulled up my Ultimate Draft Kit, my stats for Keon Coleman, and I don't have that much of an increase of production, and it's like the 19.2 yards per reception. That's not going to hold up. Like that will crash down. Does it still stay at like 16 or 17? Because that would still be extremely high. So having this conversation, I'm very concerned about Keon Coleman now.
Yeah. I'm glad we at least pointed these things out, not to confirm everything, but if you have problems like this in college, it's really hard to reverse them on a team that doesn't hyper-target their players anyway. They haven't done that the last couple of years other than Diggs. Nobody else has really carved out a role in that team. All right, this is the Jaylen Waddle spot. This is from DK. He asked, what am I doing with Jaylen Waddle at this point? 26 and a half years old. He's the wide receiver 25 in our startup rankings. And a year ago, I was looking at different sites. He went as high as wide receiver 10 in startup drafts. So, Betz, what are your initial takes on Waddle and what you would do?
Man, this is tough. I think we all agree the talent is not a question on Jaylen Waddle. And what's weird about the whole situation, I just can't understand it. And I mean, Mike McDaniel knows and the offense knows why Jonnu Smith was such a focal point this year when they had never used a tight end before. That hurt Waddle a ton, where you could bank on, no matter what, it was Tyreek and it's Waddle, and then of course the running backs, but those two guys are getting all the targets, kind of like what we see, with the Bengals. The target shares are so condensed that both guys can eat. When you add a third guy in and, Achan's getting 70, 80 targets out of the backfield, it's man, this really hurts all these ancillary pieces. So I don't know if the Jonnu thing was a 1-year wonder or if he's legit part of the game plan now, but it definitely hurts his projection as far as immediate expectation. I still think the talent's there. I think that's repetitive. We said it for 2 or 3 years in a row now with him, but I'm always willing to bank on talented players who are still in their prime, which he is, 26 and a half years old. So look, there's a range of outcomes where Tyreek is, I don't know what's happening, but the vibes are weird on Tyreek, right? We saw a little bit of a downtick last year. How much of it was off the field versus wrist surgery versus a combination versus age? Who really knows? But there is a world that exists where Tyreek takes another step back, and then Waddle, you can see the path. So I'm buying if the market is super, super low on him, but I'm not paying a premium like I would have, 2 years ago.
I'm in agreement with that. Your close there, Betz, that I think there exists a world where Tyreek is losing it, and I think Jaylen Waddle is good enough. Maybe will he ever be peak Tyreek Hill on a football field? No, but I think that Jaylen Waddle can be an upper tier player who could take over and be the one for this team. But the bigger question is just what in the world? What are the Miami Dolphins? Who are the Miami Dolphins? Trying to project and stat them out. Imagine sitting last year. You're okay, I think about halfway through the year, they will bail on the offense that we have seen be really successful for years, and now they're just going to dump the ball off to the running back and the tight end. No one could project that, and now you feel like a fool saying, "Well, I'm going to project that they're going to go back because they were that was what they were doing for the whole half of the year." They are an impossible team. But if you have my advice on what do I do if I have Jaylen Waddle, I'm holding Waddle because it's like Garrett Wilson. The market doesn't match what I think that player can do for my team. I'm sorry, I don't have answers here. That's I don't know who the Miami Dolphins are of. I can see easily we get to the end of the year and you're yep, this is what McDaniel has. They're so afraid of Tua getting hurt that they're going to do everything to protect him, which means all short stuff. These wide receivers then are hamstrung in this offense. Or they look back and they go, ugh, that wasn't it, guys. We need to go back to airing the ball out. And Jaylen Waddle takes a step because Tyreek Hill takes a step back. So just trying to lay out all the possibilities here. I apologize that I don't have a strong conviction of which direction it's going to go, but I do have a strong conviction that Waddle is better than this. And you should not trade him for pennies or whatever, or even 70 cents on the dollar. I would not do that. I'd just hold Waddle and be willing to be wrong and have Waddle expire.
That's good, actionable advice. Just to say, if he's not worth what somebody's going to give you, you don't have to move him. You don't have to panic and say, "Oh, last year was so bad." Now, I'm looking at his splits in his career, and since he's been in the league with Tua and without Tua, 49 games with Tua, 13 without. When he's with Tua, he's a top 15 fantasy wide receiver. He's basically what Ladd McConkey was points per game wise last year. When he's not with Tua, 13 games, he was a little better than Jalen Tolbert, who was the wide receiver.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And also,
I got to do him like that.
I don't know if you guys can see in this chart that I made you, but he doesn't have a receiving touchdown in those games without Tua.
I do see that. Yeah,
that's sad.
Man.
That's
guys, backup quarterbacks are important.
Especially
that's why you draft one with the 8th overall pick.
Who's laughing now, Kyle? In all seriousness. No, but that's a good point. Like when Tua is your starter and you have this concussion history, like you have to have a plan B. Otherwise, your season is pretty much over, as we saw last year. So, yeah.
And you know who their backup is right now.
Plan B is Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, he supported Garrett Wilson wide receiver 32 season. Okay, so don't worry about it.
Did you see what jersey number he is in Miami?
Garrett or
Zach Wilson.
Is he number 2?
No.
Guys, he picked number 0.
Oh boy.
I've never seen a quarterback with 0.
That's a tough look.
But maybe he's saying to the team, I'm going to start really low. I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to work my way back up.
Number of touchdowns I will throw this year.
Just he's in a contract year.
Is he in a contract year?
Oh, man. It's a 1-year deal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
He's motivated.
So you tell me. All right, a couple more questions here. This one's from Bobson. He says, I don't know if you guys done this, but I want to have a general conversation about league settings, sizes, rules. My only league is still kind of figuring things out as we go. We've only ever done redraft, which I appreciate when people can say, hey, I've only ever played this way. I'm still new to Dynasty. It can be a tough, place to jump in and say, what do I do? What's normal? And I said earlier, I'd rather have 10 committed teams than 12 and a couple of stragglers. But any general settings, like I would just say first and foremost, like make sure that Fab is turned on. Like Dynasty is the worst place where people can just grab anybody whenever they want. So make sure that waivers are there, they're locked, so that every single day is a new, conversation, not the first person that gets to their news app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the way we've all done it in our leagues and, separate leagues and stuff is waivers for the offseason, like a set budget for the offseason, and then just like a regular redraft league, a set waiver wire budget for in-season, and it resets, week 1 and then again after the Super Bowl. But I agree with you, like that's definitely a thing that I would look for. The other thing is with this, like I don't stress as much about settings. Like if your league wants tight end premium, great. If they want Superflex, great. Any combination of any of that stuff, it's cool. Just make sure that everybody's in agreement and that the people in the league are like super excited about what you're doing. Not just like, hey, we're struggling to find a 10th. Like, is this going to work? Because then you have the issues of what we talked about earlier where somebody drops out and you kind of have that whole thing. So you just want to make sure you have a committed group that's as into it as you are.
Yep, I agree. And that's no kickers, no defense.
Yeah.
I've been in Dynasty leagues where you have to worry about shuffling Dynasty or defenses on and off your roster. And it's just, you don't care. You don't care. In this format, you care about the longevity of your rookies making it big.
And whether it's one quarterback or Superflex, I've found that the league settings don't really make a league more competitive just because you have tight end premium or whatever. It's just the people. It's the people in your league and the culture.
The friends we made along the way.
Yeah,
man.
Or the ones that we didn't because we dropped out of the league, like that guy earlier said. But yeah, I mean, we have settings. If you want, you can search on our website of just, here's how many quarterbacks. Here's what we do for wide receivers. At least in Dynasty, you need at least 2 flex as well. If you want to do more, it's because we have deep benches. I'm fine with like 3 flex. If you're one of those, you want to start a bunch of wide receivers. Mike says
you're
no,
wild man. You're a wild man.
But there's guys that I want to start. Like I want to be able to start a Keon Coleman because he's a better and best ball type of player. And so if I have 3 flexes, I feel better about starting those kind of guys. I want to get wild. All right. Last question from Brenton. Post rookie draft, when's the optimal time to deal a trade away candidate? Is it now? Is it right before the season? Or is it hope that they have a strong week 1 or week 2 and try to trade them away? So we talk often about the different windows of when things are more valuable. For instance, your picks only get more valuable leading up to the NFL draft. Right now, probably not the best time to trade away picks because people, you could do it, but they're not as valuable as they are in, say, February or March.
Well, they said trade away players, right?
Yeah, I was just giving an example of there's different windows to do that. So when would you say, if you have a trade away candidate, which Mike has those in the Dynasty Pass, he says, get those players off your roster. You definitely don't want them. Jared Goff's one of them. But, it doesn't mean you hate Jared Goff. You're just saying the value might be higher. So is there an optimal time to deal somebody like that?
You're waiting for training camp season. Buzz pieces are about to start hitting our social media feed. So I wouldn't, unless it's a player where I am heavily convicted that this player, only bad things can happen to this player. Like the buzz might be player behind the guy I want to trade away is looking really good in camp, and then now your leverage and your value has gone down just a tiny little bit because the dynasty market is so fickle, and it's based off of vibes. It's based off of rumor. It's based off of a silly puff piece because the ball boy at practice was told a reporter that player X is looking really good. But this changes dynasty markets because this is the game we play. So I'm waiting for one of those at minimum, unless it's a player where it's a running back I'm scared of. Like last year when it wasn't, I wasn't saying I think Bucky Irving is going to be the greatest thing ever. I was saying I am afraid of Rachaad White. Right. I am afraid that he is holding on to his, Joe Mixon is a guy like that right now for me. And I fully admit by the end of the year, Joe Mixon could be a top 10 running back again. That's not impossible. But guys like that who are just surviving because they have the job, and if there's anyone on the depth chart who's just has a pulse and could be better, then those are the players I'm trying to move. Other than that, I'm waiting for the market to shift and I get a real positive piece.
Yeah, I think there's certain windows for each type of trade away candidate that you have. Some guys are kind of like the Keon Coleman example, right? Where it's you could see both sides of the argument, and there will probably be some point in August where it's he made a great play in camp, touchdown in preseason, just whatever. If you're on the other side of it and you say I don't think it's going to work out, I would use that hype period for however long that lasts, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and I would capitalize at that point. There's other guys that are more the veteran types, like Mike mentioned Joe Mixon. On paper, he's probably going to project as a top 12, top 14 running back. At some point in the first 6 weeks or so, there will be an injury. There will be a contender that maybe had Joe Mixon that really needs running back help. His value in that little window is going to be way higher than it is in May, right? So I'd be looking to trade him away in season, for example. So I would just think about kind of the archetype of the players that you're trading away and when you think they're going to have the most value.
Yeah. And understand the other people in your dynasty league are playing this game too. They're in the same market. They understand the same things as you do, unless maybe you play with a bunch of buffoons. I don't know. But other people know this, that when some puff pieces come out and then you're trying to trade that player away, they know what you're doing. So I'm saying when you go to do that, understand what you are actually trying to trade for, that maybe you open your negotiations with the thing that you want, but and then you pull back to the thing that you're willing to accept, but realize that other people see those as well. It's not necessarily going to get you more for that player. It just makes it easier to get the deal done.
The running backs you mentioned, Mixon, a lot of the veterans, James Conner, Alvin Kamara, Dave Montgomery, are not the sexiest names in fantasy football. But when you get to weeks 5, 6, and 7, you're like, oh my gosh, he's seeing 20 opportunities a game and my running back's hurt. Then their value usually goes up before your league's trade deadline. Those are my favorite types of players to trade away and get value, because people in that moment are like, I'm I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it my first. I'm probably
Yeah.
going to have the 111 anyways, 112. So I'm just going to trade this. And it's like a lot of times those end up being the 106, 107, and those are really, really valuable picks. The other guy you mentioned, the like preseason, that's like the Marquez Callaway All-Stars. It's like everybody saw them have this one big play, and then everybody wanted him, and then he's like gone the next year, like not even on the roster. So you can time it out and just know the different season. That's going to do it for this episode of the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. Make sure you check out all of Mike's rankings, ultimatedraftkit.com, and check them out on the app.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.